In Washington, everything now feels contradictory. Donald Trump threatens Iran in the morning, then sends calming signals by evening. He talks about the total destruction of Iran's nuclear program, but behind closed doors, the White House is desperately searching for an emergency deal, not because the war is over, but because the war itself has become a massive burden. Gasoline prices are rising, inflation is squeezing the American economy, financial markets are experiencing extreme volatility, and the 2026 midterm elections are approaching fast. Inside the White House, real fear has started to emerge, not fear of Iran alone, but fear of the American voter, because the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, which was supposed to be a quick deterrence operation, has turned into a daily war of attrition. And now, one question haunts all of Washington: is Trump truly threatening a full-scale war, or is he simply trying to frighten Iran into accepting what may be his final survival deal? During a lengthy televised discussion hosted by Alex Witt alongside a former U.S. State Department official, a completely different reality emerged from the image Trump is publicly trying to project. In public, the president appears furious. He speaks the language of power and describes Iranian proposals as completely unacceptable. But behind the scenes, the situation is very different. The former official stated clearly, Trump needs a deal now more than ever. The first reason is political. The 2026 midterm elections are rapidly approaching, and Republicans have begun sensing real danger. A prolonged war means prolonged inflation, it means higher fuel prices, and it means growing anger among American voters. In American politics, nothing destroys a presidency faster than expensive gasoline. The administration understands this very well. Swing states have already started showing visible frustration in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Voters are increasingly linking the Gulf conflict directly to the rising cost of their daily lives, and that is where Trump's real crisis begins, because the president who returned to the White House promising economic strength now finds himself trapped inside a war that drains billions of dollars every month. Worse still, the war does not appear anywhere close to ending. As the confrontation entered its third month, major American financial institutions began issuing serious warnings to the White House. Oil prices surged past dangerous levels, global shipping costs increased sharply, marine insurance companies raised premiums dramatically because of the growing instability in Hormuz. Several major shipping firms have already begun rerouting vessels away from the Gulf entirely, and that means one thing: everything becomes more expensive. The crisis is no longer limited to fuel alone. It now affects nearly everything: food, transportation, electronics, global supply chains. Even J.P. Morgan Chase warned that the U.S. economy may be entering what it described as a war recession, a slow economy combined with high inflation and immense pressure on consumers. That is when the White House began feeling genuine danger, because any major economic collapse before the elections could cost Republicans control of Congress entirely. And for that reason, Trump has started searching for what insiders describe as a respectable exit, not total peace, but a deal that can be politically marketed as an American victory. The greatest contradiction is that Trump cannot publicly admit any of this, because his political image has always been built around one idea: strength. And so, he continues escalating publicly. In speeches, he talks about destroying Iranian infrastructure, he pushes for the complete dismantling of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and he threatens an unprecedented response. But behind the scenes, entirely different conversations are taking place. Reports indicate that Washington quietly sent messages to Xi Jinping during recent discussions with China. The American message was clear: the United States may consider partially easing the naval blockade if it receives guarantees regarding open shipping lanes and the security of international navigation. Why China? Because China remains the largest buyer of Iranian oil, and because Beijing possesses major economic influence over Tehran. The administration now understands that military pressure alone has failed to achieve its objectives, which is why Washington has begun searching for intermediaries. But this strategy created a new crisis inside Washington itself. Some American security officials fear that Trump could offer China major technological or commercial concessions in exchange for assistance on Iran. And here emerges a dangerous new concern: fear of the grand bargain, the possibility that strategic American interests could be traded away in order to rescue a domestic political position. But Trump's biggest problem is not only Iran, Iran, it is the growing division inside his own administration, inside the White House. Two clear factions have emerged. The first faction is led by hardliners, figures such as Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel. These figures believe that any retreat now would make America appear weak. They argue that Iran is testing Washington's credibility, and therefore they push for more sanctions, more naval escalation, and more military strikes. The second faction is led by economic advisors and allies close to J.D. Vance. This camp believes that the American economy cannot survive a prolonged conflict, and it wants rapid de-escalation, even if it requires limited concessions. That is why administration messaging now appears deeply contradictory. Trump escalates publicly. Vance speaks about restraint. The Pentagon emphasizes deterrence. While economic advisors warn about financial instability, the administration now appears as though it is moving in two completely opposite directions at once. While Washington struggles with confusion, Tehran appears calmer. Iranian leadership understands that time may now be its most powerful weapon. Years of sanctions have made the Iranian economy far more capable of surviving long-term pressure. Meanwhile, Iran knows the American economy is far more sensitive to sudden shocks, which is why Tehran has adopted a simple strategy: endure and exhaust the opponent. The Iranian message is straightforward: no real negotiations before the blockade is lifted, no nuclear concessions without full guarantees. At the same time, daily confrontations continue in the Gulf. Fast attack boats approach vessels, drones are shot down, warning fire erupts repeatedly. The region now lives in a condition of no full war and no real peace, which is the most dangerous phase of any conflict because it drains everyone without resolution. Inside Washington, concern has started turning into genuine fear. Wall Street is struggling with the volatility. Energy companies are pressuring the administration. Voters are angry. Economic growth is slowing. And at the same time, Trump refuses to appear weak, which is why he continues playing the most dangerous political game in the world, the brinkmanship game, escalating to the edge without crossing into total war. But the problem is, this game can spiral out of control at any moment. One mistaken shot in Hormuz, one missile that slips through defenses, or one attack launched by an Iranian regional ally, and everything could suddenly become a full-scale regional war. That is why many analysts now believe Trump's recent threats are not preparation for invasion, but rather a final attempt to frighten Iran and force Tehran toward a deal that rescues the American economy and allows Trump to declare victory. But the most dangerous question haunting Washington today remains: if this deal fails, can Trump survive a longer war, or will the real explosion happen not in the Gulf, but inside America itself?